So welcome to Oceanside Chat. I'm Helen Wang, the host and editor of the program. When I started season 2 in February, I planned a total of 8 episodes. However, in the past few weeks, the program's popularity led to greater demand for high quality and impactful content. Since balancing demand and supply is my profession, I decided to increase supply by onboarding more industry executives and thought leaders to share their perspectives and expertise. Today marks the 6th episode focusing on combating supply crisis, a halfway milestone of season 2. It's also a great moment to celebrate our supportive and fast-growing community who join the live sessions and listen to our podcast. It's impressive that more than 40% of our registration are from word of mouth. So thank you for sharing the program with your network. And please know that you are why we keep doing what we do. Let me begin today's discussion by asking a question. What comes to your mind when people mention supply shortage? Not only the word shortage triggers negative emotion associated with trouble, but also the word supply implies the cause of the problem. Suppose you remember the earlier example of my podcast. At first, I had no idea if people would like the program. Soon it became clear that a positive market reaction demands more episodes. Then my ability to get more speakers and produce more episodes determined the available supply. Now let's look at another example of the worldwide semiconductor shortages. I'm curious about your thoughts. Is the current situation caused by insufficient supply or artificial demand? Please answer the poll question on the screen. Today, I'm thrilled to introduce our guest, Lynn Torrel, Chief Procurement and Supply Chain Officer at Flex, a global diversified manufacturer that helps a diverse customer base design and build products that improve the world. Lynn, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Helen. It's a pleasure to be here today.
Lee, I would like to ask you a question to begin with. What would your superpower be and why?
I would say my superpower is the ability to multitask. I feel like, in life and in a professional environment, being able to kind of prioritize and multitask and address different situations effectively, but at the same time would probably be my superpower.
Wow, I bet in today's world, everybody would love to have that superpower. If you had to teach a class on one thing, what would you teach?
Oh, interesting. I think I would like to teach leadership. Because while there's specifics in every type of discipline, in leading an organization and really developing leadership skills, it can transcend to multiple disciplines. So that would be a subject that I would be interested in teaching.
Great, and you will receive our invitation pretty soon. I'm sure. I also have noticed a few keywords in your company's description, and in particular, global diversified manufacturing that helps a diverse customer base. Could you please tell us more about Flex's global scope and footprint, and also the diverse aspect of Flex's business landscape and customer base?
Certainly, and I think that is a great way to start the conversation, to have a good understanding of Flex, where we sit in the supply chain, and the complexity of our global organization. So Flex is an electronic manufacturing services provider. We build product for our customers. We help in the design of those products, whether it be designed for manufacturing or in the design of the bill of materials. But in essence, we're building their product. So we partner very closely with our customers as I said, when they're looking at their design, as well as choosing their manufacturing strategy, because we have facilities all over the world. And to give that some context, Flex works with about 1,000 customers whose global supply chains we manage. We have over 130 manufacturing locations in over 30 countries around the world, about 160,000 employees who are building those products every day, and our revenue is about $25 billion. And we support customers in multiple segments. We have automotive customers, medical solutions customers, industrial customers, our cloud, energy, and power business, as well as our consumer devices and lifestyle. So we have a tremendous visibility across a number of industries that utilize high-tech manufacturing. And from a supply chain perspective, we work with about 16,000 suppliers to build those products. And that translates into about 1 million part numbers. So it's an incredibly complex and diversified supply chain that we manage on a global basis.
Well, those are astonishing numbers. Yep. From number of employees to number of suppliers and customers, as well as global location and the manufacturing side. Very, very impressive. So what attracted you to join Flex in 2019?
Well, it's interesting. Like you said, I mean, Flex has one of the most sophisticated and complex global supply chains in the world. Prior to joining Flex, I spent 25 years in electronics distribution at Avnet. And I had a variety of different roles, customer-facing, supplier-facing, and supply chain. And one of my last roles actually was president of a business unit, and I was supporting Flex as a supplier, as well as looking after the tier 1 EMS and OEM customers at Flex. So I had a visibility into the Flex organization because I'd worked with EMS customers and with Flex for many years. But I was very intrigued about the idea to go to the other side, on the customer side, and look at the manufacturing side. And, wonderful, Avnet's a wonderful organization. I had a wonderful career, but just that draw of extending my learning and my skill set and being able to join a company like Flex, managing their global end-to-end supply chain, I thought was very intriguing for my personal growth, as well as bringing in the experience I had in distribution for many years. So I thought it was a really nice fit. And as you said, I joined Flex in October of 2019.
So how many people are working for you now, and where are they located?
So we have about 9,000 employees in our global procurement and supply chain organization, and they're located all over the world. So my responsibilities are that end-to-end supply chain. So it's direct and indirect procurement, freight and logistics, our component services business, our inventory management, operations management, as well as our strategic supply chain engagements with our customers and suppliers. So it's a pretty complex and broad organization, but we have, employees located at every site, and we also have centers of excellence around the world where we have larger populations of our employees who help manage this, very complex supply chain.
So 9,000 people, wow, around the world. How would you describe your job to a 5-year-old?
That's a good question. Actually, it was kind of hard to describe my job in the past. But now that supply chain has come to the forefront, many people are really understanding it in their day-to-day business. But, it's making sure we have the right pieces at the right time and place at the right price, to enable full production and supporting our customer needs.
Yeah. You joined Flex in October 2019, right? A few months later, the global pandemic hit. So for the past 2.5 years as a chief procurement and supply chain officer at Flex, how would you describe your experience, maybe in 3 to 5 words?
Exciting, challenging, and exhilarating.
Wow. I feel like a lot of energy, just from these 3 words.
And it really is, because, the pandemic, when it hit in China in January, we've started feeling the impact already in mid-January of 2020. It wasn't until March that, the US kind of shut down. So when I started joining Flex, 5 months, almost 6 months of kind of traveling around and meeting people and going to our sites, analyzing, our production capabilities, most importantly, meeting with my team, as well as our customers and suppliers. And then obviously, we went into lockdown and it was a crisis situation. And if you think about that time, Flex was closing and reopening every one of our manufacturing facilities all over the world, as well as our suppliers were doing the same. And so we needed to understand, my organization needed to understand what would that impact be to the supply chain? Because when you reopen, you lose some output. A lot of times capacity was reduced. So we were constantly looking at analyzing the customer demand, analyzing the supplier responses, and wanting to reconfirm all of that information. And we started in mid-January actually having a daily call with my direct team as well as some members of an extended team. So it was daily calls for about 5 months, starting, and I like to point this out, it was 5:30 in the morning my time, because that was the best time to actually have a global call with our team. And it was during that time when we would say, what are we seeing from our customers, from our suppliers? What are we hearing from our government relations? What are we hearing in the media? And we'd make decisions that we would follow for the next 24 hours. And then we would get together again the next morning and have that. And that's why it was kind of challenging, exciting, exhilarating. There was in this role that we have, and knowing we're making critical products for the world, you have that passion to wake up early and really try and solve those challenges and make the best decisions you can, knowing that you're going to address and have numerous challenges follow on. So I think that was a pretty interesting time, and I'm really proud of the work that the Flex Global Procurement and Supply Chain team did during that time, because it was working closely with a lot of stakeholders, customers, suppliers, our business unit, our operations, to do the best we can or we could to keep operations running.
What is the one thing or maybe one impact that you feel like your organization as well as Flex has made during the pandemic that made you most proud?
Probably what I'm most proud of is the fact that Flex partnered with a medical company to make ventilators early in the pandemic when there was a need for more ventilator production. And prior to that, all the manufacturing for ventilators was done in-house by the companies that supplied them because technical nature. But we were partnered because they needed to ramp up very quickly. So we were able to launch ventilator production in 3 regions in the world in 3 months. And of course, that was dealing with all of the supply chain constraints that were taking place at the same time. So my team was busy bringing in all of the parts that were needed. Our engineers were working on the technology. Our production sites were working on the capabilities. And in 2020, Flex made more ventilators than were produced in all of 2019. And now that business has gone away. So we also worked really hard to ramp business quickly that we were hoping would go away because it would no longer be needed. But if you think about the pride that an organization can have, and that we had personally, I think being able to help the world in the COVID crisis was very impactful.
Yeah, I remember that I was listening to the news on the TV, when Flex was stepping in and step up and start producing, ramp up the ventilator, at the fastest speed you could and save a lot of life. Mm-hmm. I bet that those are very, very inspiring, memory that the industry as well as your people will remember. Yeah, wonderful story. Thanks for sharing that. And I'm sure that people are curious about how the audience answered the first poll question. I'm going to share the result here. So the question is, Is the current semiconductor shortage caused by insufficient supply or artificial demand? It's a single choice question. We have about a 47% answered insufficient supply. Also, 47% answered it's a 50-50 split between the supply and artificial demand. So there's only 6% actually think the shortage was caused by artificial demand. Lynn, what's your perspective?
I think in this case, it's really a split between the two, the insufficient supply and the artificial demand. And by that, I've been in this industry a long time, and I've gone through a few cycles, especially of this semiconductor cycles, where you have demand outstripping supply, and over a period of time, capacity investments are made. You have more supply that comes out, and then you have a time of excess. And whenever there's constrained parts, you do see human behavior is to order a little bit more than you need to hopefully get what you want, to make sure that you're fighting really hard for your company and your organization. But even more impactful right now, especially with the crisis we're seeing today, it's the proliferation of semiconductor content into non-traditional devices that has made the forecasting of the demand very difficult. You add that to the incredible strength across our industries for demand, which is, there's a number of reasons for it. You could say it's 5G rollout, electric vehicles. It could be, incentive spending by consumers buying more goods for their home because of COVID. A lot of variables can go into that. But what we also see is, in many cases, you'll have industry demand predicted for a market. You can say smart energy is going to grow 20% because of the activities that taking place. And that's at an industry level. Well, typically you have a few strong players who are all going to forecast for that demand because they're hoping that they'll capture the entire industry demand, maybe a little bit more to get market share. But when you have multiple companies doing that, then you get that artificial demand flowing through an incredibly complex ecosystem because there's many players. And one of the challenges that we have, especially in this industry, when you're looking at high tech, there's a significant amount of investment that needs to be made to increase capacity. And it takes years before you really realize that capacity. So the challenges that we have in forecasting demand are very difficult. And it's something that's not new to the industry. It's always been a challenge. And it's something we need to look at, different ways in which we can improve the demand forecasting throughout the ecosystem.
Yeah, and I also think in supply and demand sort of is an ongoing thing, right? And it might go through some cycle as well. Depends on what was the biggest event happened and which part of the cycle we are in. So I definitely agree with you and the audience. I think the split, the cost is split between the supply side as well as the demand side.